will examine how government can update the federal grants process to help improve communities' access to critical resources, increase transparency, reduce duplication, and streamline the federal grants process. Each year, federal agencies distribute grants to help communities fund everything from workforce training programs and disaster mitigation efforts to local fire stations and first responders. Last year, the federal government awarded over $1 trillion in federal grant money. Communities in Michigan and across the country rely on this funding for essential services and personnel to keep the public safe. Communities also count on federal grants to implement and advance groundbreaking initiatives from the American Rescue Plan Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, that have helped communities recover from the pandemic, upgrade their infrastructure, and address climate change. For example, in my home state of Michigan, the city of Detroit will use federal grant funds to help restore the I-375 highway to a boulevard, knitting a divided community back together, and creating new opportunities for economic development in the process. The funding the city received through a grant from the bipartisan infrastructure law will help them complete this project nearly 2 years earlier than expected. These types of grants can go a long ways towards helping communities invest in significant projects and provide critical services to their residents. However, many communities, especially small and rural communities, face barriers to accessing these vital resources. Today, we'll be examining some of those barriers and discussing what more the federal government can do to ensure that every community has the opportunity to apply for and receive grant funding. Smaller communities often lack the resources to hire grant writers or ensure compliance with complicated federal guidelines, missing out on important opportunities that could help them better serve the public. By ensuring communities have access to funding, we also can encourage the fair and efficient distribution of grants to states, to cities, to localities, as well as to organizations with the greatest need, not just those with the greatest capacity. While some agencies have successfully implemented recommendations to expand access, many stages of federal grant process remain both fragmented and duplicative. For example, more than 50 different federal agencies distribute grants to more than 131,000 recipient organizations for more than 1,900 grant programs, each with its own application and award process that can be difficult to navigate. I'm working on legislation to increase accessibility to federal grants by simplifying grant announcements and requiring announcements to use plain, easy-to-understand language. Other challenges, such as technical setbacks, a lack of leadership and coordination, and the burdensome nature of the grant application process have prevented communities from accessing federal grants. IT and technical barriers have also prevented communities and organizations from assessing grants. Many agencies use different grant management software systems, leading to confusion, to frustration, and wasted time for many applicants. Recently, the System for Award Management, or SAM.gov, the government-wide registration system for federal funding awards, experienced technical issues that adversely affected businesses and nonprofits applying for grants. Irregular funding cycles also prevent smaller cities and local governments from hiring permanent staff, and shortages of temporary staff have exacerbated an already insufficient workforce, especially in the areas of greatest need. These challenges affect organizations and governments all across our country. And in planning for this hearing today, I've heard from states, from cities, nonprofits, and tribes about the importance of having access to federal grants. Without objection, I would like to enter several statements that I have here into the record that will reflect the challenges that all of these organizations face. And while it's critical that we streamline the federal grants process to promote better access for smaller communities, we must do so in a way that ensures the federal government receives the information it needs to fairly distribute awards and to conduct appropriate oversight. As chairman, I will continue to work to address these needs and conduct oversight to help eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse within the federal government. And today I'm pleased to welcome our panel of expert witnesses who can speak to the challenges and barriers facing their communities and help share some ideas of how we can improve this federal process.